makes the difference. RKTLA, TLA, West Coast Superstation.
It's 1 a.m. in California. The quiet night air is rife with the lingering aroma of broken dreams and leaded gasoline. This is the fetid atmosphere of Los Angeles in 1978. Gliding down the 405 freeway is a machine draped in glowing silver, with edges that lacerate the air with naked aggression. A crude, shining, cubist machine that is out of place. It is far too sharp, it is far too loud, and it is far too fast. What carves through the thick California air that night is a fighter jet. And behind the glowing orange displays and the military-grade controls sits a man determined to prove to the world that he alone holds the keys to the future. There, in a skin-tight shirt and faded blue jeans, sits Gerald Weigert. Now in his 30s, his life up to this point has been predictable, safe, and boring. But his eyes are focused on the far future. A future where American supercars rule the road, and a world where Jerry himself stands on top. He doesn't know it yet, but what lay before him was a decade of self-sabotage, torment, and hopelessness. But tonight, Jerry sees the dark horizon out ahead of him and has pointed his machine towards the rising sun. What he is driving is no ordinary device. It is a vector, and it is from the future. The kind of machine the world wouldn't witness for another 20 years. Exactly the kind of car that could take down Ferrari and change the world of fast cars forever. That was at least Jerry's plan. This is the story of Vector. The story of Vector is the story of a man who had good intentions, great ideas, but a severe lack of enough information. Sure, Jerry went to college, but when it came to the real world, Jerry learned that he didn't know anything at all. That's because Jerry was dumb. That's right, dumb. Because he didn't have a computer or the internet, and especially because he didn't have the new Opera One browser.
Stop right there, or the computer won't spare you in the upcoming human version. We don't have Jerry Weigert, and we don't have Vector cars, but we do have the Opera One browser, and we here on the Squid Team are hooked on it.
With aviator sunglasses sits Jerry Alden Weigert, who is taking the plunge of his life. Screaming across North America, Jerry is a heat-seeking missile bound for the world of fast cars. He's focused, he's angry, and he's tired. Tired of hearing no. Tired of hearing about how unrealistic dreams should stay dreams. And tired of not taking matters into his own goddamn hands. That ends today. Today, he flies at 500 miles per hour away from his past. In his wake was a lucrative job offer at General Motors, one that he immediately turned down. No. His passion and vision will not be wasted on minivans and sedans. Because that destiny was a prison. A prison of complacency. Design school, Toyota, GM, 30 or so years of meaningless work, all rewarded with a gold Rolex and a goodbye. No. This was not to be his fate. So he is moving to the place of dreams, the heart of American culture, Los Angeles, California. Jerry's destiny sat folded up neatly in his pocket. A simple drawing, nothing special. A child's vision of a sports car from the future. There were no engineering plans, no specific numbers, just a simple, sharp wedge and 4 wheels. An optimistic sketch of the fusing of fighter jets and fast cars. An F-14 Tomcat for the road. As the cabin doors opened, he adjusted his aviators, turned out the color on his flight jacket, and unbuckled his seatbelt.
I always wanted to be a fighter pilot, but my eyesight was not naturally good enough. I wore contacts, and so I translated my interest in aircraft to the idea when I started Vector as aircraft for the street, to build an advanced tactical fighter for the street, for the guy that could afford it.
In a stuffy studio apartment, black coffee sits long abandoned in an old ceramic mug. Alone, sitting atop a thick shag rug, matted and oily like a stray dog's fur, sits Jerry Weigert, who is shaping a car out of foam. It had been months since he arrived in Los Angeles. His skin now a darker shade of olive from the oppressive sun, and his spirit eroded and worn down from the sleepless nights. What he holds in his hands looks less like a car and more like a child's toy. His vision of a real supercar. Jerry was no stranger to this new world of overpriced and unabashed sports cars. He had seen the Miura, took inspiration from De Tomaso's Pantera, and had scoffed at Ferrari's 365. None of them were really beautiful in his eyes. So he started Design Force, a powerful name meant to convince people he wasn't just one man in an apartment playing with foam.
I need a turtle.
Jerry carried around his hard-edged toy as he bounced around Los Angeles like a pinball. And he hit his first jackpot when he met a man named Lee Brown at a body shop down the street from his apartment. Lee Brown saw the future outlined in the shapes of that foam model Jerry held. The allure of creating the world's first American supercar. Or, if you ask Jerry, the world's first actual supercar.
The Motor Show, the Royal Academy of Motor Car Design, with the sparkle of chrome and a little razzmatazz thrown in. Posing like a...
What Lee saw convinced him to sacrifice what meager resources he had to bring that model to life. There, at the Precision Auto Body Shop in Hollywood, California, the chaos that is Jerry had found its first victim. I mean investor. The two rolled an old Porsche chassis into Lee's shop and worked long hours shaping a new body around it. Together, they created the Vector GT, a life-size realization of Jerry's foam dream. No engine, no interior, it wouldn't turn, it wouldn't drive, but it would sell the dream to the masses. And those masses would be at the 1972 Los Angeles International Auto Expo. the premier home of debuting wild visionary concept cars. Weird sculptures like the Ferrari Modulo and the Maserati Boomerang would draw crowds of fans and press, and the stealth fighter shape of Jerry Weigert's Vector may have fit in, but it definitely stood out. Parked among the dated, odd designs of the AMC Gremlin and the Ford Carousel van concept, the Vector appeared as if transported from a future only read about in trashy dime store novels. Standing in front of it was the time traveler that brought it there, and he would grab whoever he could and try to sell them on his dream. To him, the Vector GT was more than just some pretty paperweight meant to talk about a future far away. No, this wasn't just a concept car, it was a real car that he wanted to bring to the world right now. It was a promise that he could do what the Italians do, build something truly special, elegant, and fast. Sure, this one didn't run, but with confidence and a contagious energy, he assured everyone that the next one would. It would be available soon. It would be powered by a 200 horsepower rotary engine, and it would only cost a paltry $7,500. Or about $40,000 in the grimdark future of 2023. The press may have been delighted by the Vector concept, and his promises may have seemed genuine. But as the show ended and cars got loaded onto semi-trucks, Jerry's real work on the Vector began. And none of it would go as planned.
It's a car out of the future, designed like a fighter jet. The Vector's eye-flattening acceleration will leave you speechless at 240 miles an hour. The only thing this car doesn't do is fly.
Talk of the futuristic rotary power plant and cheap pricing lasted in Jerry's mind about as long as the stains on the Expo's floor. Shortly after the show, Lee Brown would be the first to find out that working with Weigert was not all as it seemed. Quickly, their disputes culminated in a total collapse of their partnership. Since Lee had provided the Porsche donor for the concept, he was the one to wheel the GT home and close the door. Jerry would never touch his prototype again. But it mattered not. He had generated the buzz he needed and learned his first valuable lesson. Always work alone. As he stared out at the Santa Monica Pier, the sun fading over the horizon, Jerry realized he'd done the easy part. He'd made a car that people liked. Now he just needed to pay for it.
The Vector was born in Venice, California, the dream of an American who wanted a car that was better than anything made in Europe.
I've always had a love affair for fast cars, and especially aircraft, and the really significant thing about the Vector is that I integrated my aircraft interest and aerospace interest into an automobile, and that's what makes the Vector so special.
Now, building a car from scratch is no small feat. For years, Weigert would walk around with his sketch in hand, begging for funding, slowly piecing together his dream. He would eventually abandon Design Force and claim the name Vector Car. And after a half-decade, he finally created his first prototype, named after Weigert and two turbos. The Vector W2. Finally, the plans he had laid out so many years ago had become alive. The Vector W2's purpose was clear: to be a showcase of the best American technology on offer. And to Jerry, that best technology came from fighter jets. He called it an aeromobile. With its aerodynamic design, huge glass-covered cockpit, and wide-tapered rear end, it was truly a low-flying stealth fighter for the road. Sitting in the driver's seat, to the left of you were buttons, switches, and digital displays lifted from real airplanes. Vertical bar graphs displayed your RPMs, speed, temperature, and more. And underneath the dash lay actual aircraft-grade electrical components and circuit breakers. Everything mil-spec. Nothing like any car ever made before or since. Today that interior may look a bit dated and a bit clunky, But this was 1978. Your Ferrari had a sheet of aluminum with gauges slapped into it, and their readings were at best estimations. Lamborghinis were adorned with thick, generic plastic buttons. Here was a machine with digital readouts, a rear camera, heads-up display, navigation systems, and more. Decades before any of it was popular. Behind your head sat a much more antiquated piece of technology, but no less impressive. A longitudinally mounted Chevy small block V8 fitted with 2 turbos. Lamborghini's V12 in 1978 supplied you with 375 horsepower. Jerry's V8 nearly doubled it. 600 horsepower and 600 foot-pounds of torque. That, combined with the lightweight materials used throughout the car, meant that the W2 could crack highway speeds in close to 4 seconds. Meaning you've left Italy's best in the dust before you've even gone half a block. Now, of course, supercars aren't supercars without their quirks. And Jerry's vision for what the world wanted out of the most expensive sports cars was slightly off target. Because when it came time to decide how all of this power and this technology shifted its gears, Jerry decided it should use a 3-speed automatic motorhome transmission. Now, Jerry would claim that the transmission was geared for 242 miles per hour top speed, and that the car would easily drive over 200, a feat no production car would manage for another 10 years. Despite the ridiculous drivetrain, it was astonishing, a true feat of design. A machine that could rock the world of motoring in a way that wouldn't be seen until the McLaren F1 came 17 years later. Sadly though, even good ideas fall victim to fate.
The company has received international publicity from numerous automotive, general interest, and luxury lifestyle publications. In a recent issue of Top Wheels magazine, the Vector W2 was considered superior to the Lamborghini Countach and Ferrari Testarossa in the magazine's editorial opinion.
The W2 prototype was built on a shoestring budget. So small, in fact, that he couldn't even afford a truck to ferry it around and show it off. So Jerry just drove it. There in its cockpit, he was home. Jerry would gleefully pilot the W2 across the country from meeting to meeting, showing it off to newspapers and TV shows nationwide. Magazines scrambled to feature the W2 on their glossy covers. Posters of the W2 found themselves in every garage. Journalists tripped over each other to be the ones that wrote the finest review. Photos would appear of the W2 adorned with the hottest models and in the most exotic locations. The hype was now on for the Vector car, and funding was starting to flow. But what didn't flow were production examples. And over the years, it all started to seem a bit odd. Time passed and the magazine covers became rarer and rarer. And in 1982, 4 years had passed since the W2 had hit the streets. Jerry finally got to appear on TV on The Late Show with Ross Schaefer. Jerry stood there with his creation and proclaimed the virtues of his daily driver. But by then, the cracks were starting to show.
This is Jerry Weigert. Hello, Jerry. Please welcome Jerry here.
Now, if we could get the curtain up, I want to show you this little invention Jerry brought along. This is... Yeah. See, they're whooping and hollering. This is better than a Playmate.
Really.
This is the Vector W2.
It all started with the price. $160,000, which is $500,000 in today's money. That's nothing in comparison to the price of today's hypercars. But in the early 80s, it was absurd. You could get a Countach for half that. Even worse, its futuristic tech seemed almost impossible in 1978. But as the years dragged on and on, technology started to catch up with Vector's vision. It didn't help that the man behind the car wasn't exactly the most personable. As the press rushed to get seat time in the car and photograph it for their pages, Jerry would lay down more and more rules on how they could do it. No, you can't test the top speed, you can't do any hard accelerations, and don't photograph it like that. Pretty soon, that car that was on everybody's wall was looking suspicious. The media stopped wanting to hear the empty promises, and they came looking for assembly lines. What it boiled down to was that the worst part about the Vector W2 was that you just couldn't buy one. Jerry's investors started to get cold feet, and bankruptcy began to loom in the distance. In desperation, Jerry turned to what is America's saddest and most prolific pastime: lawsuits. He sued AutoWeek for comparing him to P.T. Barnum and insulting his hair. The case was dismissed, but it was a shining example of the relationship between Jerry and the automotive press. An annoying, but absolutely necessary evil. Soon after, he began suing anyone and everyone for their intellectual property rights. The most notable being Goodyear, for using the word vector in a line of tires. Goodyear, who, rather than duke it out with Jerry in court, just paid him a few $1,000,000 and scrubbed the word off the sidewalls. But it wouldn't be enough. Vector cars, as it would seem, had become vaporware, and the company would close its doors for good. Sometimes, though, the night is darkest before dawn. Around him, the city was on fire. Crime had skyrocketed, and gunfire rang out in the night. Sirens blasted down every street. Los Angeles in the late 80s had become a pretty rough place to be. Jerry takes one look at the crashing economy, the rising popularity of small, fuel-efficient cars, and the utter failure of his automotive endeavors, and tells himself, now seems like a good time to take my supercar company public. This decision was downright psychotic, and it shouldn't have worked. But Jerry was just too persistent to give up. The newly formed Vector Aeromotive would go public and supply Weigert with a slush fund of $8 million. From the ashes of Vector cars rose the new Vector. And this one had a large warehouse and dozens of employees. Almost in spite of those that doubted him, finished production cars are being assembled around him. The press returns, as before, almost to watch as he fails again, but this time he's different. He welcomes them in with open arms. He's personable. He's downright pleasant. Jerry proudly shows off every bit and piece of his new production supercar, the newly named Vector W8. The W8's new race-bred Rodic engine now makes an impressive 625 horsepower. It has forged pistons and stainless steel internals. That engine is fed by 2 Garrett turbos with adjustable boost. A knob inside the cabin allows you to change from 8 to 14 psi. And Jerry claims that they'd measured 1,200 horsepower at the highest setting. The engine powers a stealth fighter body made of carbon fiber and Kevlar, held together by over 5,000 aerospace-grade rivets, all wrapped around an aluminum honeycomb monocoque. The car has massive brakes and sits atop custom-made Michelin tires. And yes, it still has a 3-speed out of an old camper, but Jerry promises that it's better now. Every part of this machine is uniquely Vector, every piece made in America, and every box stamped with military specs. Jerry proclaims that it makes Ferrari's new F40 look like a fiberglass toy. That its 248 mph top speed makes the 959 obsolete. It has GPS, a car phone, sequential shifting with no clutch, and of course, those fighter jet gauges. This is America's first true supercar. It is the world's most advanced machine, and it is the fastest car ever built up to this point, period. This Jerry, This new, nicer, more successful Jerry, this is the Jerry that people like. So they order his car. Anyone who didn't want to be labeled as just another rich dick in a Ferrari puts money down for a Vector. And for a brief moment, it seems that Jerry would finally rise to the ranks of the world's finest automotive manufacturers. But unfortunately, in the shadows lies another Jerry. The one that never really learned anything about production or finance or how to get along with people. And this other Jerry starts to fuck everything up. The greed glowing in Jerry's eyes begins to make him blind to every red flag, like when a famous tennis player pressures him to sell a car before it's ready. Andre Agassi saw the specs of the new Vector W8. Every magazine ranting and raving about America's new fighter jet. And fittingly, Andre had to have one. So he demanded that Jerry send him a pre-production model. One that he could be photographed next to and be seen with. Jerry agrees, but he makes Andre promise not to drive it, as they hadn't worked all the kinks out yet. Now, let's be honest. If you got handed the keys to a scissor-doored supercar that can go 200 miles per hour, and was made out of the parts of fighter jets, would you behave and not drive it? I didn't think so. Photos begin to surface of the hot tennis player standing next to his new wild ride. Feeling emboldened, Andre goes for a quick spin in the W8, and almost immediately, the engine bay gets hot and smoke fills the cabin. The result is an angry celebrity and a full refund, which of course leads to bad press. Jerry's favorite. The bad news didn't stop there. Journalists wanted to finally test Vector's cars for their magazines. Car and Driver was even given a chance, but out of the 3 cars sent to them to test, none of them survived very long before breaking down, and none of them reaching that 200 mile per hour top speed.
Unbiased benchmarking outlet AMD.
Check out AMD's apples.
I wouldn't
Laugh!
Oh iya, kok.
Tes halo.
Ngomong apa sih?
Tes halo.
Ih, gila mic-nya beda banget.
Pantesan gue nggak nemu ya, gue nyarinya gorilla ref anjir.
Lu goblok anjing tolol.
Gua baru mau nunggu responnya si Andra nih berarti gitu.
Ayo gas.
Tunggu satu orang. Tunggu Rene.
Gue ingetnya gorilla ref ya. Bangsat. Gue pikir lu rekan Sinte, ternyata enggak.
Lu tolol.
Gorilla.
Bego.
Ternyata gue lihat.
Let's go bro.
Nah, ada manusia silver.
Masih silver anjing kayak di ini lampu merah si Diablo.
Siap ditemukan di perempatan terdekat. Tapi kan manusia silver Indonesia nggak begini. Manusia silver yang di ini kurus-kurus ya, kurang gizi. Iya, tuh tidak ada pelangi.
Support dong Dra, mana lu?
Nggak
Support
mau,
dong.
najis tau nggak,
Mana
najis.
support lu?
Najis.
Ndra.
Nggak mau gua.
Support dong.
Sama aja gua support Haji anjing, ogah.
Nih, support nih. Nah,
Anjir barengan. Nah.
support cuy. Mana Andra nih supportnya?
Gua nggak tahu cara emot pencet apa sih Des di PC. Pencet apaan sih di PC?
B, pencet B.
Cuman ada ini anjing.
Gue lagi minum tea sih, Des.
Gak terlalu demen. Gue lagi minum tuku.
Des, lu nonton ini nggak, Des? Apa namanya? Yowamushi Pedal.
Enggak.
Oh, temen gue suka banget ya.
Lebay temen lu kasih tau, jangan lebay anjing gitu.
Iya, terus langsung jadi abis nonton itu jadi kayak sepeda banget gitu.
Wah, lebay banget.
Sepeda bro, sepeda. Semua orang diajak ngobrol, sepeda.
Bilangin kata temen gue Deska, jangan lebay lo gituin. House Paradise season 2 kapan ya?
Gak tau, gue belum nonton.
Lah, season 1 belum lo?
Belum.
Mana anjing?
Mana?
Guys. Mau di mana guys?
Ujung. Ayo.
Lah anjing gua kepencet cok.
Siapa sudah keluar?
Gua kepencet anjing.
Turun. Bawa aja.
Oh.
Ini Andra.
Oke. Pencet anjing.
Mantap.
Udah mirip sama Aji aja.
Ayo cuy, gua kebiasaan Apex anjir.
Anak Apex sih. Buat
kok banyak
Lu
kan?
bayangin ya di PS aja gerakannya gitu, Ren. Kalau di PC lebih gila banget sih gua nonton.
Parah ya.
Orang-orang gerakannya di PC anjing sakit jiwa aja. Nggak normal.
aduh, siapa nih yang ngasih? Waduh, sakit banget aja.
Harus jatuh, oi. Jago banget cuy anjing, pas Melo. Thank you, bangunin
Pernah
gua,
mati,
Ren. Di bawah
tapi
ya.
bentar, gue mau mati juga.
Tuh kan, gua pencetnya F
Lu
anjing
rame
bukan
banget
E.
aja, ada berapa orang tuh?
Thank you, Indra.
Woi. Woi, Nek, bantuin anjing.
Yang jago tuh kayaknya. Dua, Mbak.
Aduh, iya.
3 malah. Jago Mak.
Ayo mak, buat YouTube klip mak.
Oke.
YouTube lo apa sih nama channelnya, Indra?
Ya sama kayak ini gua lihat rap.
Oh, gue liat rap juga.
Kalau Hatma G namanya.
Coba gue cari.
Anjir, bertiga udah pada mati ya?
Oh, ini lu lagi live?
Yoi.
Aduh, bangke.
Gila, gua...
Wow. Nice try.
Telatnya berapa jeda? Indra?
Paling 2 second.
Oh lebih cuy. Kayak berapa ya?
Lebih ya.
Lu masih ada tulisan lagi makan bentar cuy.
Lah si goblok.
Iya bener.
Lupa anjing.
Kita subscribe
Sudah.
dulu teman kita, support dong.
Kok gue sitting out sih apa artinya dah? Ini game gak jelas.
Mau balik lobby dulu.
Ya udah balik lobby ya.
Oke.
Lu udah tamat itu? Ituan apa namanya? Harry Potter?
Anjir kok gue nggak bisa sih?
Gua.
Start aja, Mak.
Udah.
Apa status? Pencet start. Oh iya nih. Ini kayaknya Fortnite yang apa update ini nggak stabil menurutku.
Baru.
Suka drop ya frame rate-nya ya?
Iya, iya sih.
Nggak terlalu
Iya.
tapi di
Gua di
menunya,
PC ya,
di
anjing.
menunya suka stuck.
Iya, frame rate turun terus. Nah.
Soto lu Des. Tahu lu. Soalnya kan biasa kan lonely kecil dan render dikit tiba-tiba jadi mention aja.
Ontol lu.
Ini di streaming lu aman, Ndra, bicara kasar.
Wah, bebas anjing.
Orang dia ngomong begitu.
Orang gue bilang aja LBG tampah anjing. Gay anjing.
Oh anjing.
Yoi, thank you Deska.
Ready guys.
Subscribe dong, Hat. Channelnya
Apa?
Indra.
Oh
Subscribe.
iya, gue subscribe, oke.
LGBT, jangan serang. LGBT anjing, jangan diserang goblok. Gue udah support masih diserang.
Ini lagi
Oh,
diserang
LGBT
ya.
di depan YouTube aja.
Yoi.
LGBT baik.
Ini gara-gara Aji nih, sumpah nih pasti banget nih game nih. Gara-gara Aji nih.
Mana teman gua? Ayo sini Mak, ikut Mak. Anjir mana teman-teman gua nggak ketemu.
Mau sini lagi.
Jangan.
Jangan. Gue nih gue nggak pencet apa-apa dah. Ujung.
Oh, Simi, oke, Simi. Ya.
Teman-temanku getar.
Males cuy anjir.
Oh kalau new season tuh levelnya ngulang dari awal ya?
Iya, ngulang.
Tapi lu akan tetap ketemu orang-orang yang udah jago karena yang dihitung hours played.
Oh, I see.
Emang sotoy maksud gua.
Public. Sotoy lu.
Beda ya tuh, sini nggak ada orang lagi ya.
Gak laku.
Even dari zaman sebelumnya ya udah nggak laku ini.
Iya, dari zaman sebelumnya gak laku. Gak terlalu laku betul.
Yoi, gue dapet turret bro.
Oh itu mantep Cendra.
Oh itu mantep banget. Senjata gua langsung dikasih. Ada yang mau gak?
Boleh. Aing.
Senjata favorit Aing ini.
Oh lu suka SMG itu?
Suka banget. Dibanding yang apa namanya MK yang baru itu gua gak suka. Kurang.
Oh gitu.
Ya begitu sobat.
Udah lagi nih kalau nggak mau.
Udah ready, let's go.
Capture dulu.
Sambil itu dong bendera LGBT.
Oh iya boleh di atas ya.
Yoi.
Nih, tuh.
Enggak, anjir. Oh, hancur ininya ya? Bounty board ya? Hancur lagi anjir. Tuh yang belum tuh. Shield. Pakai dulu nih, pakai kecil dulu.
Ambil. Ayo.
Tar minum dulu guys.
Santai.
Let's go.
Nice Sugan, let's go.
Ayo Malaysia Silver, let's go. Let's go kemana by the way kita?
Mega mau nggak? Bontinya di Mega.
Yuk, Mega deh. Yuk. Ya ada mobil tadi mana?
Kok roket nggak ada sama sekali ya di situ ya?
Dikit. Ayo Mak, ayo mobil. Oke. Yo, ayo Persija.
Harus kita support aja.
Yuk, turun.
Tembak tembakan, nggak tahu di mana.
Udah depan persis ya. Oh dalam lawan NPC.
Lawan bos apa ini?
Aduh. Oh ini bot kok, bot.
Musuh beneran itu.
Enggak, NPC.
Itu NPC? Oh ya beneran sih.
Bot, ada nih orang beneran ada nih bawah.
Oh itu dia.
Wow. Pedes guys. Bentar. Lo pada nge-lag ya?
Oh enggak, tapi bagi
ambil roket gue, Ndra. Sama turret tuh ada.
Oke, tar dulu.
Aman. Lu parah banget.
Nge-lag.
Ada banyak dulu.
Awas lu. Buka turret. Aduh.
Gimana?
Aduh, ada rame ya. Di dalam rame banget deh. Rame banget.
Ada orang anjir.
Didatengin grup baru.
Gimana ya?
Gak usah, pelan-pelan aja. Masih pada ribut pasti. Nah, kan.
Gua. Beda squad.
Beda, tenang aja makanya. Gua ganti koneksi bentar ya. Oke.
Kena terus ya ini.
Samperin tuh deh. Oh, kiri lo.
Ya.
Kalaupun menang berat juga aja, temennya masih tinggi. Ready apa ke lobby?
Lanjut.
Ready.
Oke. Gaspol.
Lu main nih, gue ganti koneksi nggak ada.
Dar. Oh, pala.
Nice.
Ini sniper gokil juga kan.
Itu susah ngehernya.
Minum dulu ya kan, haus.
Tapi pakai sniper itu kelihatan arahnya dari mana deh setahu gue.
Oh gitu.
Karena dia suppressor kan.
Tiba-tiba kena aja gitu, jebret.
Yoi.
Fort gay like Aji.
Yo, ayo Persija. Ku yakin kita harus menang. Ini pakai suar coy. Yo, ayo. Yo, ayo. Ayo Persib.
Bebas mau di mana gue ngikut.
Brutal.
Kita ngeload abis itu kita kesanguin.
Mau nyari apaan lu disanguin?
Kepo lu.
Nggak tahu aja lu anjing bacot.
Bolbi gua. Mana lu Bolbi?
Bola ubi.
Yang isinya kopong, angin doang anjir.
Mana mahal lagi mau gituan doang bentukan lu.
Di ini. Sebenarnya ada quest di friendly. Ada apa?
Battle Pass ya, gua belum beli anjir.
Gua kesini deh.
Sekali.
Stopbers. Gila, Scopers baik banget aja, berempat aja sih.
Minum dulu. Najis yang kecil cuma sampai 50.
Ada Gojek ya. Ada musuh lagi depan gua aja.
Udah 2 knock ya.
Di mana di lu, Nek?
Iya. Ini udah kosong sih. Hatma 1 knock. Satu lagi sama DSK kayak. Ini scope gak enak dah.
Mati des.
Udah mati, iya. Gua ke atasin. Gua suka banget malah. Ya, selera sih.
Gua mendingan ini.
Apa? Mendingan apa?
SMG yang kemarin. Apa tuh SMG yang kemarin?
Yang mana?
Yang nganu.
Yang apa?
Yang nganu.
Apa? Yang mana?
Yang submachine gun.
Iya, submachine gun yang mana?
Submachine gun.
Yang mana?
Yang submachine SMG.
Submachine SMG yang mana?
Ya.
Ler.
Loh.
Sapu tuh enak gak sih?
Waduh, gimana? Buset dah itu. Guk.
Tuh, pas tuh, sangun tuh. Rezu go.
Ya kan kita
di sini
persiapan
ada
dulu, emang gitu
ada
caranya.
mas. Tapi
apa? Oh itu, bawa tuh siapa kek? Nah, aku sniper cuy. Kita lihat kondisi di sana seperti kosong, tidak ada aktivitas. Tidak melihat apa-apa. Apa kalian melihat sesuatu? Oh iya, itu apa tuh merah-merah? Oke, mereka udah di basement sih. Mau lawan nggak, Ren?
Ayo, gas.
Oh, deteksi CCTV itu jadi buat semua orang ya, bener nggak sih?
Nggak tahu.
Iya nggak sih, Ren?
Yang mana CCTV kenapa?
Iya, deteksi CCTV itu jadi muncul untuk semua orang gitu.
Itu kuncinya udah dibawa sama orangnya ya? Oh iya betul.
Oh iya betul kan?
Cannot sprint,
CCTV
low
betul.
energy.
Enggak, kalau kunci emang ini kelihatan di map. Kalau kunci kelihatan di map betul.
Bukan ininya, tuh merah tuh, lihat nggak kalian merah di bawah? Tuh.
Iya.
Kena CCTV soalnya.
Kita dapat juga.
Turunnya lewat mana sih? Nah itu dia. Emang susah.
Banyak jalan cuy.
Gue udah level sama gue ini. Oh mereka persis di bawah gue. Satu udah mati ya? Nah, berarti 2 mati, tinggal 2 lagi di bawah.
Nah ini ribet.
Di bawah gitu?
Mau gimana kita?
Iya.
Bareng-bareng harus bareng-bareng.
Masih ada 2 di bawah. Wait.
Oh ring cuy, biarin aja. Terus juga keluar dari ring. Nah, guys, ambil senjatanya senjata bagus banget apa sih?
Ini tapi ke bawahnya mana? Apa ya?
Bontinya tuh belum mati ya tadi.
Ada yang ngezip. Ada yang ngezip. Di mana tadi? Anjir, NPC gua malah berenang lagi. Udah tahu di zone.
Suruh follow.
Nih.
Ada musuhnya.
Oh, di bawah anjir.
Dia nggak kena ring emang.
Ya, mungkin masih kena. Kita mau nungguin nggak? Kalau nungguin lama nih.
Cabut guys, yuk.
Oke. Aduh, nggak ada movement lagi ya.
Kalau belum dapat. Tadi ada kok.
Belum.
Gue kira udah pernah ngambil. Ada tasnya soalnya.
Oh, ini ada nih, gue ketemu jalannya. Udah nggak usah.
Gua udah di atas gua.
Iya.
Adanya NPC loh. Kok ngelak-ngelak gitu sih NPC-nya?
Mau lo, si Hatma ngajar masalahnya deh. Enggak. Aman.
Oh, ya ngerti.
Kue charge gun.
No, ringnya tutup guys, yuk, jalan yuk.
Andra kenapa tuh? Nggak tahu, bocil ya.
Bocil. Gue pengen lihat ada orang bikin stream challenge senjatanya cuma movement doang, senjatanya cuma roket doang, bisa nggak menang dia. Victory Royale pakai roket doang, keren. Mana sih musuhnya? Ada musuh Ren. Kok kagak ada suara sih? Oi.
Kenapa ya?
Orang ini pasti
Andra sih ngilang.
bocil kali, lagi bocil.
Iya.
Bocah. Bocil. Sini. Bonti.
Wis. Orang cabut si Andra ya?